Just this past week, I had a client who he was going into one of his workouts, and it turned out that he was mentally fatigued. He was completely out of it. He didn't really get the performance metrics that he wanted to get out of it, and thereby his mental exhaustion led to his physical fatigue, where he couldn't perform at the level that he wanted to. I'm going to talk today about why mental fatigue is something important to address, what usually causes mental fatigue, and a couple ways that we can kind of deal with it. So, focus in and let's talk about it. Jumbo, my friend. I'm glad you're here. I'm Coach Zoe, or the Coach Zoe you know, and this is What the Foss, a podcast that talks about mentality and physicality, and we talk about it in order to improve yourself, in order to do the things that you love to do. Some of the clients that I have, they tend to be in stressful jobs, and they tend to have different distractions of things that tend to come up, and it affects different areas of their life. One of them being their fitness. And if you don't know, I run a fitness business, and clients I work with, they have workouts that they need to do at their scheduled times. And I keep them accountable on that, but some days are tougher to show up than others. And a lot of this can be because of mental fatigue. Some of this mental fatigue can be from work. Other bits can be from family stressors, whether that's medical issues or arguments that you've had with somebody else, or just a bunch of different things in life. There's different ways that your mind can sort of perceive things, and it can make things seem a bit off. And because everything's a bit off, you might get a bit more mentally fatigued. So some of the signs that you might be more mentally fatigued include if you're more distracted. I know there's times where I'm way more distracted. And other times it can be things of more increased negative thoughts. Perhaps you're sitting on some issue that you would rather pass by, but for some reason it just stays stuck in your head and you can't seem to get by it. The other thing is that you have an increased lack of motivation, where to even do the simplest task, it's not going to work. It's not going to happen. You have this idea that you're like, yeah, I'm going to cook for myself. I'm going to do all of this food stuff real well. And then you just end up ordering to go from Taco Bell. It's the easier choice, but it's because of that lack of motivation. It's because you're mentally drained. It tends to affect other areas of your life. So what do? Well, nothing. You're gonna stay in this position forever. Sorry. No, you're not. The main thing that you're gonna do is you're gonna think about a couple different things that you can change. And by change, I mean a few different habits that you can create, but a few different ways you can sort of change up your schedule, change up your routine, sort of break yourself out of this funk that seems to be mentally draining you. So the first one is to eliminate the stressor. Now, I want you to think about the thing that is fatiguing you. Perhaps it's work, perhaps it's your spouse, perhaps it's something else in your life. Whatever that thing is, I want you to leave it. That's right. I'm telling you to leave your spouse, leave your job, give it all up. Oh, you're saying that you can't leave it. Well, I'm not here to break up anybody's relationship by any means. You can't say, oh, well, Coach Zoe said that we should probably break up because I'm mentally fatigued. No. I'm not taking that responsibility. You and whoever you're with, that's between you and them, all right? Don't get me involved. But if it comes to things like your work or some other specific thing that is that mental stressor that is mentally draining you, I'm not saying you have to leave it, but you could, there's that option that you could leave that thing, but let's say you're like, Coach Zoe, no way. No chance, I'm not leaving that thing. All right, cool. Well, the other thing you can do is to try to give it space. So if you have this thing or a person or somebody that's draining you, perhaps trying to get a little bit of space from them to see if that's still the specific thing that's draining you. I'll give you an example. So if you have a job that you work with, I used to have a job that I did where whenever I would leave the job, my phone would still be blowing up with different messages and emails and updates and things to get back to that I felt like I had to answer all the time. And I felt like I was always on the clock to do every single task that I had to do. And it wasn't even in my work hours. It was times where I was asleep, awake, on vacation, on the weekend, whatever. And that really just mentally drained me, and it made me exhausted a lot of the time. So what you can do is you have to set up some of these boundaries for yourself. And I know that setting up boundaries is kind of a scary thing when it comes to a bigger thing like work or different life stressors. But if you don't set up these boundaries, you're not going to have as good of performance as if you are actually at that work or around that person. So make those boundaries when you're not around them. And then once you're back there, you're able to give it that full, undivided attention. And then when you leave, you're able to leave it behind to the best of your ability. Now, if you have this time to yourself, what do you do with it? Well, a couple of the main things I would say is that you could take on some mindfulness practice. And there's a couple different ways to do this. One of them that I've come across and that I've done is actually meditation. Now, I've always seen meditation in the past as kind of the weird thing where you have someone sitting here cross-legged and they're like, like this, and then just saying that to themselves. I'm like, that's distracting. That seems like a waste of time. I'm not gonna do that. But eventually, once I started getting into it after I had my third concussion, not great, but after I had that, I thought, okay, I probably need to do some stuff to keep myself mentally healthy, mentally strong. And meditation was one of the recommended things for it. So I worked on meditation, and it's actually helped a lot with keeping my thoughts a bit quieter, but also having me not focus too much on the negative things happening in the past, or happened in the past, or the negative things that could happen in the future. Basically, meditation helps you to focus on the present moment. Even if nothing's going on, it keeps you undistracted to be able to focus in the moment on that thing that you have to do. And that helps a lot with mental fatigue. The other thing that you can do is a super easy one. Well, it's not easy for most, but it's walking without any distractions. So when I run, right, I usually, majority of the time, I'll have a podcast going, I'll have an audiobook, I'll have some random music playing that I'm just wanting to check out. And as I'm running, listening to Cardi B or whatever I'm listening to, just to get an idea for it, it is still distracting because I'm running and I'm breathing heavy and my heart rate's going and I'm focusing on my pace and all this stuff. We don't really have time where we're just walking or sitting outside with no distractions. I found that walking, leaving my phone turned off, completely off or in my pocket, has been great as far as it goes for mental health and mental exhaustion. You don't have to be just sitting there admiring trees or birds. You don't have to be, 95 years old, right? You can go out and try just some other activity, but just don't have that distraction with you. So one example is playing disc golf. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm about a 2 at disc golf. I can throw the thing, I see the target, and I release, and it goes somewhere off into the woods. I search for it for a few minutes, eventually finding it buried in some mud. But it's nice because it's kind of a nice distraction. I'm away from everything, and I find it to be something that helps with my overall mindfulness and being present in the moment. The other thing that you can work on are 2 key components, which is your exercise and your sleep. If you're not in a regular exercise routine, you need to be. I don't care if your exercise is walking without distractions or whether it's going for your big max lifts, right? You need something, and that something will help you on the physical side. Your physical and mental are connected. Whether you like it or not, if you don't exercise, that's gonna affect your mentality. if you have all these stressors that affect your mentality, it's going to affect your physicality. Working on exercise helps to release endorphins, but it also helps with your serotonin levels. Serotonin is a chemical in the body that can affect depression, anxiety, and your mood. And if you don't have it regulated in the right way, guess what? It can lead to mental exhaustion. So working on exercise can help with that in just a regular routine that you can go do to get even a quick 10-minute escape from whatever else you have going on in your life. The last thing is getting a nice sleep routine. When I used to sleep, I used to be the kind of like sleep face down, body face down, in my pillow, having the TV on, and basically trying to fall asleep that way. Now, my sleep routine, oh man, it's like I'm at a spa, you know? I got that music going, it's that space sleep music. I got, oh, you don't know space sleep? It's basically, think like the movie Interstellar, but it's all these like calm, relaxing space sounds. Oh man, like, I don't go fall asleep fast, but it puts me out. Space sleep, I have an eye mask, because yeah, I got an eye mask. I'm not gonna buy some of those blackout curtains, although I should. Blackout curtains probably cost somewhere in the 3-digit range. An eye mask costs about $2 from the dollar store. So that's what I went with. And then I just make sure that everything's comfy, everything's quiet, the best it can be, and I'm out. Having that to improve your quality of sleep helps out with your overall mood, your overall energy levels, and everything else that you can focus on. So if you feel mentally drained, whether it's from your job, or whether it's your overall anxiety or negative thoughts, or whether it's a person in your life, you have to think about creating separate times and spaces from those stressors. And you have to think about getting a nice mindful practice in place, but then also working on your exercise routine and also your quality, doesn't always have to be quantity, but your quality of sleep. I hope that helps. Honestly, if you have any questions for me, I've gotten some weird questions here and there. If you have any ones, I don't care what it is, you can send them to me at the Coach Zoe you know, or through my website, fossmovement.com. Otherwise, my friends, take chances, make mistakes, and take care of your mentality, because you don't want it to drain too much, because that's gonna affect everything else. Talk to you soon.